All right, team, here we go. Good morning, everyone, and welcome to our annual Calhoun County-wide State of the Community Address. My name is Jessica Vanderkolk. I'm the Communications Manager for the City of Battle Creek, and co-emceeing with me here today is Ms. Lucy Blair, the Communications Manager for Calhoun County. We have a really great and full presentation for you today, so we are going to jump right in. Slide, please. We'll introduce them, of course, as they speak, but quick run through of our presenters today. We have Haley Snyder, the Albion City Manager, Rebecca Fleury, the Battle Creek City Manager, Derek Perry, the Marshall City Manager, Vester Davis, the Springfield City Manager, and Kelly Scott, our Calhoun County Administrator and Controller. So we are going all across the county today. We wanted to take a moment to go back to our COVID-19 response in 2022. For most of the year, we were still talking about that as a countywide response with the City of Battle Creek, Calhoun County, and the Calhoun County Public Health Department. You may know that our formal response has ended as of mid-November, and that was prompted by the State Emergency Operations Center deactivating. There is still a lot of information out there, and the best source is the CDC. So we've listed that URL on the slide, cdc.gov/coronavirus, and that still offers you the weekly look at the local transmission rate. So you can see that by county. The Public Health Department and others in the community are still offering COVID-19 vaccines and boosters and the bivalent booster. Those are all available locally. And various doses are available for ages 6 months to adults. So if you are looking for that, it is still available. Anything to add on that, Lucy, before we move on?
I would just add that Public Health Department is still very much tracking coronavirus in our community and is ready to respond as necessary as the Public Health Department. This was just our formal county-wide response on the Joint Operations Center that we were using as a way to provide information about what was going on. That part of it's ended, but our response from the Public Health Department is very much continuing. So, but it was a big moment for us in 2022, I think, to end that after many, many months, a couple of years of doing that, and all of our local municipalities engaging on that. So. Well, great. Let's move on and get started with our presentations from our cities. We're going to start with the City of Albion with Haley Snyder. Do you want to go ahead and get started?
Yes, thank you, Lucy. Good morning, everyone. So last year we had a successful year here in the City of Albion, a successful election in November. All of the sitting council members, as well as the mayor, were reelected. So I'm happy to share that Mayor Victoria Garcia Snyder was reelected for her second term to serve as mayor. And then there has not been a change on council. So I'm really looking forward to continue to working with my city council to move Albion forward in a positive direction. Just information for everybody. Our meetings are held on the first and third Mondays of the month. We have a study session that begins at 6:30 with regular meetings starting at 7. Our meetings are held at City Hall. Next slide, please. So first thing, we continue to have a great working relationship with the Battle Creek YMCA to provide recreational programming to the City of Albion. So we have continued that service agreement. City Council renewed that to go through December 31 of 2024. So we're looking forward to continuing to working with Battle Creek, the YMCA, and to offer new programming for all of the residents in Albion, as well as some of the surrounding communities. We have programs geared towards all ages for our seniors, teens, youth, middle age. So very happy to see that partnership still moving forward. I think one of the biggest projects or the what we are really excited about for last year is the McIntosh Park project. Thank you to Tony and Chrissy DeNicola with the DeNicola gift to the Albion Community Foundation. We were able to install a new splash pad, playground, and pavilion in McIntosh Park. This is one project that is included in the Blueprint for a Better Albion. In that plan, there are 13 different projects that will revitalize all park spaces here in the community. So we are very thankful to have received that donation. And also thank you to Calhoun County, the Board of Commissioners, for their support for this project. They did allocate ARPA dollars to go towards the installation of the splash pad, playground, and pavilion. And I can say on the ribbon cutting for that, it was a very exciting day for the city. Not only did you see children running around, but you also saw adults running through the splash pad and enjoying the new park amenity. So we're very excited to have that new park space in Albion. We had quite a few new businesses join our downtown district. Superior Street Mercantile, Galazio, Smart Strength and Conditioning, Gaddis Impressions, and KC Boutique. So really excited to see continued economic development in the downtown district. The city, we also worked with a consulting firm, Beckett and Rader, out of Ann Arbor to update our 5-year comprehensive master plan to kind of identify where we would like to see the city head in the next 5 years. This also helped us maintain our RRC certification with the MEDC. So we're very happy to have that updated. A lot of community engagement sessions took place to really hear from our residents on where they would like to see just future land use and the direction that Albion should head in the next few years. With that, we'll be having a work session with the City Council on Saturday, February 4th to kind of review that and set our strategic goals for our 2023. So a lot of work to be done. Next slide, please. Few infrastructure projects were completed. So we had the Albion River Trail Expansion 2 project that was completed this spring. This is the river trail that runs past McCullough Park along Austin Avenue or Michigan Ave here in Albion and headed towards the city of Marshall. So we are very excited to see that project completed. The city did receive a grant through the MDNR, the Michigan Natural Trust Fund, for that project. We also completed a feasibility study on the possible removal or replacement of the city's 5 dams. As you know, removal of dams or replacement of dams has become a hot topic in across the state. So we're trying to get ahead of that. And all of our dam structures here, they require a lot of maintenance, and we're trying to figure out what is the best steps. Do we move forward with removing them, and what would that look like? I know Eagle, they're really pushing to see the waterways return back to their natural makeup. So a lot of engagement was held with our residents for that, and we are applying for grant dollars to kind of take the next step on designing a project to address those needs. We also had a downtown parking management study completed in collaboration with our DDA. We know we anticipate a lot of continued development in the downtown area. So we want to make sure that we have parking available to support those new businesses, new residential units that have already come in, anticipated to come in the downtown area. From that study, it's happy to show that we do have the capacity there to support new development. So that is very exciting. That study also provided us with information to help budget the maintenance of our parking lots and parking spaces in the downtown district. I'm happy to share that the City of Albion, we were awarded 7 MDOT local bridge grants totaling $522,000 for fiscal year 2025. So those grant dollars will go towards preventative maintenance for 7 structures. I'm also excited to share with this grant, all 9 city-owned bridge structures would have some level of maintenance done by 2025. So that is very exciting, and I think something to be proud of. As we all know, infrastructure is not cheap, so I'm happy that we are able to utilize a grant funding to address that need in our community. We were also recently awarded a $300,000 Michigan Natural Resources Trust Fund grant for the Albion River Trail Expansion 3 project. So with number 2 just recently completed, we're looking to expand the river trail up to McIntosh Park. A lot of development has gone into that park space. So we want to make sure that we're connecting all of our river trails to all of our park spaces. So it will run along State Street to connect to McIntosh Park, and then it will also run down North Albion Street to connect into Holland Park. So we are very excited to see our non-motorized trails continue to expand and offer more recreational opportunities for our communities. Community, next slide, please. So coming in 2023, we're having upgrades to the city website. Our website we're looking to get it up to speed, make it more user-friendly and easier to navigate for our residents and for new businesses and other citizens. So we actually just approved the final design of that. So looking forward to have that implemented within the next month or so. I guess this is kind of a success from 2022, but coming in 2023, City Council adopted a rental registration ordinance. This is something that has been talked about at the City of Albion for many years. So I'm very happy to see that we were able to work with our council, our subcommittee. We met with tenants, landlords to come up with a solution that will address our rental units in our community. About 43% of the homes in Albion are rental units. So having a proper registration program in place will allow us to make sure all of those units are registered, making sure that they are inspected and that we are providing safe homes for our residents. So I'm very excited to see that program implemented this year. Mishta Mod project, we were also awarded a grant through the Mishta modular home in the amount of $200,000. So we are looking to build a modular home geared towards workforce housing this upcoming year. We're working to identify a proper location. The original location, unfortunately, we are unable to use that just due to environmental issues, but we are still working to have some testing done and locate a new location for that. So I'm very excited to have new housing. I know housing is a need in all communities, so this is one way to bring a new home here in the Albion community. We also have a CDBG rental rehabilitation project at 112 East Erie Street. So the city was awarded a rental rehab grant and working with a developer to rehab one building. It will result in 4 upper level apartments with 2 commercial spaces down below. So still excited to have new investment and redevelopment in the downtown district. We have several infrastructure improvement projects coming up. So the full replacement of North Albion Street Bridge. This bridge is in serious need of full replacement. We were lucky to have been awarded a MDOT local bridge grant back in 2019 to cover the cost for this full replacement. So we received $1.7 million in grant funding. So this project will get started. We're looking started this spring and completed midsummer. We also have a full reconstruction of Haven Road that will also take place this summer. It will also include some maintenance work to the Haven Street Bridge. We were awarded funding through the USDA RD for upgrades to our wastewater treatment plant project that has been in the works for quite some time now. So we're very that project will be bid here very soon, and we're hoping to have work started this construction season, but if not, definitely by next year. So very excited to have those upgrades done to our treatment plant. We also were awarded a drinking water asset management grant in the amount of $400,000. So we will use this grant to identify, we have roughly a little over 2,000 unknown service lines. So these grant dollars will go towards identifying the materials of those water service lines. As we all know, the lead and copper orders from the state. So we're happy to move forward with that project as well. And just really looking forward to the continued participation in the countywide transportation and broadband discussion and solutions.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Haley. It's nice to hear about what's happening in Albion. Lots going on. Next, we have the City of Battle Creek, and City Manager Rebecca Fleury will be presenting for us.
Thanks, Lucy. I appreciate that. And as last year and before, it's always difficult to follow Haley Snyder in Albion because there's so many great things going on in Albion, but I think you're going to hear that across the board today. A lot of exciting things happening in Calhoun County. So yes, as we mentioned, I am the city manager for the city of Battle Creek, and we welcomed a new commission in November this past year. We swore them in December. We have 5 returning commissioners, Mayor Benke, Vice Mayor Sophia, Commissioner Lance, Commissioner Morris, and Commissioner Reynolds. And we have 3 new faces in Commissioner Ballard and Commissioner O'Donnell and Commissioner Smith. And then we had 1 returning commissioner that had served on the commission prior, and that was Commissioner Chris Simmons. So excited to welcome them and looking forward to working with that group as we advance their goals and objectives for the next couple of years. Next slide, please. We have really worked hard at different ways to engage our community on a variety of services that we provide. In 2022, we actually launched some new tools to inform neighbors. First was Textedly. That came out, a year ago in January 2022, which is a great tool for anyone who likes to get information by text or has perhaps inconsistent internet access. So you can opt into receiving city news and alerts just by sending a text to BC News and then a second text to BC Alerts to the number of 844-673-7474. If you didn't write that down quick enough, you can certainly get that on our website as well. Secondly, we launched snow paths in February of 22. This gives our neighbors a chance to follow along our snowplows during winter weather, which seems important as of today with the snow that we have received. It's really a map system that's connected to GPS units within our city snowplow trucks. So we use color-coded lines, and the map shows when city streets were last plowed in probably a 4 to 8 hour increment. And you can get the snowpaths map by visiting our website at battlecreekmi.gov/snow, or click that snowpaths link. And that will help you see where we are and how our plowers are getting through any major snow event. Third, we launched Spider Tech in the police department in September of 22. This is a new messaging system that works in collaboration with the Calhoun County Dispatch to send updates back to 911 callers about response to their calls, constantly trying to get feedback in a variety of ways, and they can get statuses of their case through this service as well. So right now, it's really a pilot. Our police department is using this for crimes such as theft and robbery, some types of assaults and fraud crimes. At this time, we are not using Spider Tech for more serious crimes where there's personal communication is so important as we advance those investigations. But really, we look to Spider Tech to allow our neighbors to share feedback in regards to police response as you receive updates through Spider Tech. So cutting edge, appreciate that we're giving this a try from a pilot perspective. And we look forward to all that feedback. So far, it's been a positive tool. Events, I just want to quickly mention that Cue the Creek Barbecue Festival is back. Don't miss that on February 4th, starting at 3 o'clock at the Kellogg Arena. We also had an inaugural restaurant week in October that was hugely successful, thanks to the collaboration of our small business development team, Penetrator Events, Sprout Co-op, as well as the Kellogg Arena. And then I also wanted to lift up Cinco de Mayo celebration that our small business team worked with VOSIS and our Latinx community. It was a really great time, really cordoned off a portion of Michigan Avenue. Fun time. I hope that you may join us for that again this year in 2023. Improvements, we called out improvements to fire station number 4 in 2022. I think all of us are realizing that our facilities age. And when we see needs, we try to address them quickly, particularly in our fire stations. We actually have 2 fire stations that are more than 105 years old. So we do get emergent situations when it comes to those facilities. But in this case, Fire Station 4 required assistance sooner rather than later. And it also prompted us to do facility evaluations for all of our fire stations. And we look forward to reopening Station 4 in 2023 with a new roof and some foundation work, new flooring and cabinets and living space. And I know that our firefighters are anxious to get back into that facility. One of the other things that we know happens is ongoing investigative cases through the police department. One of those that we highlighted for 2022 was successfully resolving the Amber Griffin case. Amber was reported missing in June of 2020, and then in March of 2022, the police department were able to locate and identify her remains. This is a horrific case, and we hope that identification will help bring some peace to her loved ones. Difficult cases that police departments have to grapple with, but a lot of man hours went into that, and we do hope that it provides comfort. Also in 2022, we completed our national community survey. This was the third time that we did a national community survey since 2015. Our goal is to do that every 3 years. I would say COVID gave us a little hiccup in our normal scheduled timing of that. But we see that through that survey, some aspects of our economy certainly are on the rise. And this remains an important factor for our area, or excuse me, for our neighbors. And we know that our neighbors value the ease of car travel in the city. And they've helped us identify some opportunities for growth and related to those services, such as walking and bike riding. Always looking for that feedback again to see how we could do things better. The priorities that we received in that do match up with the city's goals that the community helped us set in 2021. That's always a good thing as well. You want to make sure that we're aligning everything to those goals that are set by our commission and our community, and they match our priority-based budgeting process that we revamped in 2021. Just as a reminder, our strategic priorities or community results for the city of Battle Creek are economy, safety, transportation and mobility, utilities, environmental, physical appearance, community design, arts and culture, recreation, and governance. Everything that we do, financial and human resources that we allocate, all tie back to those things. Overall, I think we were a little disappointed in the response rate. It was 11%. But we do understand there's a bit of survey fatigue out there. We knew that COVID impacts those response rates as well. But we feel that based on the statistics around those results, there was really a 95% confidence rate in those results, and that's representative of our community. So we do believe we have meaningful information. Next slide, please. Continuing to look at our successes for 2022, the National Public Works Week open house was attended. Unfortunately, it was really bad weather. However, that did not stop our public works team from sharing all the many things that they provide that sometimes get left unnoticed, from streets, water, wastewater, engineering, signs and signals, fleet, and others. It was a great time to kind of celebrate those services and share that out with the community. Our BC Transit received additional funding for our BC Go service. If you don't know, this was a pilot for countywide on-demand transportation services. It's really helped us gather data to inform our advanced discussions around a countywide transportation option. So we were thrilled to receive that extension of funding. Kudos to Mallory and her team. And we celebrated the 10,000th ride during 2022. So again, our transit team does great work. Also, again, engagement is going to be a theme that you're going to hear from me in both 2022 success as well as what we see in 23. We had two very important roles to fill at the end of 2022, and we used some robust community events to inform those final decisions. And we were able to select a diversity, equity, inclusion officer, as well as a new fire chief. So we welcome Kimberly Holly as well as Bill Beatty. Our neighborhood planning councils have been on a 2-year hiatus since COVID, but 5 of them started to meet again in September of 2022. The 3 other NPCs, neighborhood planning councils, will consider starting up again in the spring. If you don't know what neighborhood planning councils are, they are groups of neighbors that live in the same area, which meet to talk about issues and topics that are most concerning or important to them. And city staff also goes there to listen as well as share what's going on in their geographic area. And so please, if you'd like more information about neighborhood planning councils, you can go to the city's website, battlecreekmi.gov/NPC. I always am often saying that our employees are our greatest asset. I'm really, really proud of so many achievements that we saw in 2022 that confirm and validate just the great skill and knowledge that our city staff members have as they provide service to our neighbors every day. I'm going to call out just a few. Kudos to Jarrett Gearing, our city engineer. He earned his credential for leadership in energy and environmental design. We probably all know that as LEED, but it just means he can bring that knowledge to many of our projects around green building practices and saving energy, sustainability, and a healthy environment. Our aviation director, Phil Kroll, he received the accredited airport executive credential. This just helps us confirm that he's got the necessary airport management, business administration, and general transportation economic skills to bring to the airport as we see a great deal of growth and opportunity at the Battle Creek Executive Airport. Fleet. They maintain hundreds of items in our fleet. From you normally think of cars, fire trucks, police cars. No, from chainsaws to fire trucks, they take care of it. And we appreciate that they were recognized in May 2022 as a notable fleet division. So we appreciate the leadership of Steve Seaman there. Our police department renewed their state accreditation with MCOLS. They received the status in 2019 that requires annual reporting, and then including 105 standards we must comply with. So we are grateful that that was renewed again for its new year. We were the 16th department in the state of Michigan to receive that. So a lot of credit goes to our PD chief and administrative, as well as the men and women at the police department. And then lastly, let me just call out that the fire department was second in Michigan to receive the FEMA hazardous materials validation. So this is proof that our 18-member hazmat team have the skills and capabilities to respond to any hazmat incidents within the city and beyond. So kudos to our teams in that respect. Making sure I didn't forget anything on that list. Completed our equity audit. So in 2022, we did receive the final report from MGT. They did a comprehensive equity audit on all of our internal and some external city systems that is informing the city's work around diversity, equity, inclusion. It led to the hiring of our first diversity, equity, and inclusion officer, Kimberly Holly. And that report also provided the city with a DEI action plan and ways that we need to focus internally to our organization to be a more equitable organization, as well as to reflect the community in which we serve. A lot more information will be coming out of that in the coming months as Kimberly kind of gets her arms around all of that work. And I heard Haley mention a lot of things around linear paths. They have become so popular, particularly during COVID and beyond. So we continue to work at repaving parts of our linear path for improved use and access. And because we know the number of users on our linear park paths are growing, and we love that. We want to continue to support that gem that connect many parts of our county. Next slide, please. In 2023, as I mentioned, we will continue our diversity, equity, inclusion work. We also anticipate receiving the final report of our EMS Fire Police Service study. We have been looking at the service delivery models in those three areas to make sure that we have the right models in place and the right human and financial resources in place. So we anticipate a careful look of that final report from staff perspective, as well as sharing that out with our city commission to consider recommendations going forward. Along that same line, we are also continuing discussions around creating a citizens review board. This has been ongoing for several years in collaboration and partnership with the NAACP, the city's Human Relations Board. Chief Blacker and Chief Bagley now and his team, and we anticipate a commission workshop in the first or second quarter of 2023 to hear recommendations from our partners, as well as get direction from our commission about next steps. River naturalization, I heard Haley mention that as well. We have a lot of wonderful water resources in Calhoun County. The city of Battle Creek is grateful to have both the Battle Creek and Kalamazoo River. But as you know, we have been talking about a river naturalization project probably since 2015, and that effort continues. What that means is, and you see on this slide, is in the 50s, the Army Corps of Engineers put in a concrete channelization to prevent flooding of the downtown. And we certainly don't ever want that to happen again. So as we talk about river naturalization, we're trying to do the right thing environmentally, but also highlight the aesthetic and recreational, economic, and quality of life implications that could happen if we were to remove that channel safely and enhance that as a sense of place. We appreciate that the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers is one of our partners in this particular project because we want to be careful. Again, we don't want to do something that would risk flooding, but we should know by midsummer about what actual restoration might look like in order to put some, then we can put some designs in place about naturalizing the river. We know there is a lot of interest, and we look forward to be able to share some drawings later in 2023. But we feel like we're in a good position. I will tell you, when I heard about this project in 2015, I had a lot of no way kind of thoughts. But as I see the possibilities when we talk with engineers and our team, as well as our economic development partners, this is probably a once in a lifetime opportunity for the city of Battle Creek. And we've been grateful that it's been recognized at the state level with funds being allocated to Battle Creek Unlimited for the project, as well as the federal level. So I would tell you to please stay tuned in 2023 for more fun and exciting things around the river naturalization project. When we talk about continuing economic development efforts, certainly river naturalization is one of those, because we will have some opportunities for river redevelopment that we haven't had in decades. But in addition to river naturalization, we want to make sure we're lifting up housing. Housing is a concern across the county. We need affordable housing projects, we need market rate housing projects, and everything in between. So that remains a critical component of the city's economic development strategy. And we're excited about the plans, affordable housing plans that are underway and under consideration for the former Kmart site, as well as the Dolliver property that the city acquired with ARPA funds. That's on Washington Avenue. We will be having a charrette process for the Dolliver affordable housing site in 2023. So we hope we get many people to attend that. We will continue to do everything we can from a municipality to try to reduce the barriers to housing development, and look for some best practices along the way. And we are looking at land use and zoning districts to determine how best to support housing, because again, we need it at all price points, and we want to do what we can in that particular area. We also know from an economic development standpoint, that small business development is vital. So our SBD team is heavily promoting our community with email marketing, websites, billboards. It's that cultural vitality piece that often aligns with, housing, transportation, other economic development initiatives, that the placemaking and the culture vitality is key. So I know that we're going to hear that from all the communities, because we have some great things happening in all of the Calhoun County communities. And then we continue some of our small business incentives through our small business development team, some of which I've talked about already. Next slide, please. Just continuing what's coming in 2023. Claude Evans Park, we are building on the success of the splash pad in that park. And I'm glad Haley said it, because I see many adults in that splash pad. So that is fun for all ages. But we're also looking at adding additional amenities, including additional parking, lighting, and extending the city's fiber connection to the park so that we can deploy some smart cameras to address some safety concerns. Safety is a big priority for our community and our commission, my administration. So we look for ways to innovatively help from a security and safety perspective. So that, and it's also a chance for us to expand our fiber network. We are also pleased to be part of the ongoing conversation around connectivity, broadband, fiber, high-speed internet in Calhoun County. So any way we can use that to lift up city services and do that in coordination with other initiatives is a win-win in our book. Community newsletter, we think, is very popular, and we're trying to listen to our neighbors about ways in which we can deliver that. We tried the shopper in 2022, and this year in 23, we're going to try direct mailings. Many of our neighbors tell us they prefer a hard copy, something in their hand, and not necessarily are they going out to the internet or websites to do that. So we look forward to seeing how the direct mail of our newsletter looks for 23. From the city commission perspective, we get a lot of questions about commission meetings and actions. So I give applause to our communications team, who's going to try to think about better ways to help our community understand our commission, not only through a newsletter, but also trying to make our commission meeting business easier to understand. They're thinking about agenda previews before meetings, wrap-ups afterwards, to review which actions the commission took on and other issues that may come up from commission meetings. And they're working on doing this through a series of short videos, monthly emails, any ways that we can get our neighbors to subscribe and think about engaging with their local government. It's really difficult and can be intimidating to come to meetings or even participate online. So I appreciate the communications team thinking differently about how we can better share that information and engage community differently. We also look for ways to engage with our recreation department as they update their master plan as required. So please participate in that if you are able. And then as we talk about best practices, I have to applaud our Department of Public Works that is underway with the APWA accreditation. This really does support our willingness to, one, better engage, and two, have the best practices and higher standards in place to provide service delivery. That's a lot and it's a mouthful. So I think you can see that 2022 was a pretty good year, even though we're continuing to see get past and through COVID, but yet still recognize it in the community, as well as a busy 2023 for city commission, city staff. And I look forward to working with everyone on this event this morning to continue to make Calhoun County a destination. Thanks, Lucy and Jessica.
Thank you very much. Lots going on in Battle Creek, and we're going to move next to the city of Marshall with City Manager Derek Perry. Derek?
Good morning, everyone. I appreciate the opportunity to speak to everyone out in the interwebs as they're viewing us this morning. As mentioned, I have the honor of being the city manager for the beautiful city of Marshall, and on behalf of Mayor Jim Swartz and the City Council, I just again want to thank everyone for allowing us to participate. Also, before I get started talking about our successes and what we plan on doing in 23, I want to thank our 90 hardworking city employees that really make everything possible. And it's important to recognize their hard work to make our city as great as it is. For successes, we kind of broke this out by some of the departments, just to provide some metrics on that. For our administration side of things, we actually spent some money on our Brook substation and a water system improvement. And again, I think finance sometimes gets lost in it all, but without them, it all really starts with a budget, right? So, and getting these bond sales completed is a significant undertaking. So again, I want to thank our finance team for helping us with those, because that's how we end up funding our infrastructure. That's so critical for our community. Our police department implemented a code enforcement program. So that's been something that's been, I would say, well, it bounced between departments and it was time to formalize that. So it's going to live in the police department from now on. And we're looking forward to getting folks trained up in that and improving the, it's really, I would say, being a good neighbor to one another. And that's why it's important. We updated our special events policy, and we also were able to get back into the schools, which I think is pretty critical. And thanks to the Marshall Public Schools for allowing us to do that partnership. I think it's important, and I'm glad that worked out. And then getting back into the community, right? So with the new police chief, we did a national night out program that they haven't done in a while. So lots of good things going on in the police department. Our public services team. One of the big things we did is completed year 2 of our street improvement program. So over 3 miles of local streets in town were resurfaced. It's getting harder and harder to find a bad street. They still exist, but it's getting a little more difficult to find them, which is a good thing. And then of course we replaced some water main. Water main, sewer mains, again, not real exciting stuff, but it really is the baseline of a community. Public health, that's really what it's all about. And it's important to maintain those systems, and we appreciate the ratepayers recognizing that and supporting the fees that allow us to do that. And then of course, same side, the wastewater has to go somewhere. So at the treatment plant, we did some upgrades there too, to make sure that we're protecting the environment for everyone that lives in the community and the greater region. We're fortunate to have an electric utility in the city of Marshall. And part of that, again, is really we're trying to move from a reactive to a proactive stance as far as the utility goes. So they actually did a census on all our wooden utility poles in the community, a lot more poles than we thought we had. And but it's good to know where we're at and what we need to replace. And you'll see in 23, we're going to start replacing those poles as we should, instead, again, waiting until one breaks. And then also we replaced some, we put together a plan to go from an older voltage system to a more modern voltage system. Again, not a lot of exciting stuff, but really things that we think we should be doing as a city to protect our infrastructure. And then our community services department, our IT, let's just say that was a little outdated here at the City of Marshall. So we did an assessment on that because we knew we needed a roadmap to improve that. So we got that report in hand, and which has allowed us now to start making those improvements. And then the Eaton Park is a big push for one of our largest parks on the west side of town, where most of our athletic fields are. We're hoping to incorporate some courts, which seems to be the trend going on right now. And then, like many communities in the region, we're trying to get our splash pad going too. So a lot of excitement with the Eaton Park project. So what we plan on doing in 23 is really trying to build on some of those things that we started in 22. Again, we need to do a cost of service study for all of our utilities. Again, we want to make sure that our utility rates match what our true costs are, and that we never get into a position where we're running a deficit in some of those utilities, which unfortunately happened in our community. We're coming out of those. FiberNet now, that's no longer in a deficit plan, and our electric fund looks like the end of 24 will be out of that too. So again, appreciate the ratepayers working with us to make sure that those utility funds stay viable and where they should be in the black. Our FOIA policy again has some age to it, so we need to update that. Again, that's liability protection for the community. We don't want to get in a position where we're not being transparent with the community and make sure we're doing things the right way. So we need to get that updated. Traffic study program. One of the things we hear a lot in the neighborhoods is, how do we stop speeding in the neighborhoods? And our police department is going to be formalizing a program where we're going to be utilizing actually cameras, speed signs that actually document some of those data points that we really need to make some informed decisions. And we're trying to get as many of those around the community as we can. So when we do have a neighborhood complaint, we actually go out there, set that up, capture that data, and then again, have an informed discussion about what's really occurring out there. And then are there needs that need to be taken as far as design or signage, something to that effect. Let's see, revised, we need our marijuana ordinance. For those that know, we have grow facilities in town, and yes, they do create odor. And one of the things that we recognized is in order to really respond to some of those complaints is update our odor ordinance. And part of that is creating a objective standard with versus something that's a little more subjective. So not as easy as it sounds, but we're working to craft something that'll allow us then again to respond to our residents when we get those odor complaints. Our downtown, we're fortunate to have a very vibrant community and a wonderful downtown. And as part of that, we need to stay on top of the parking needs of that area. So we're going to be completing a downtown assessment on that through our DDA. And this will be our final year of construction for our street improvement program. So that was $4.75 million worth of construction over 3 years. This is the final year, and we're hoping to do over 5 miles worth of resurfacing to finish up that project in the community. And then, as everyone knows, our icon of the community is the Brooks Memorial Fountain. As you ride around the traffic circle, it really is the community of Marshall. And as all infrastructure, I think, as a lot of us have emphasized, this stuff ages, and it really requires continual reinvestment. And that's one of the things we're going to be looking at, is developing a plan to make sure that again, our community icon is maintained now and into the future. And then we have a smaller fountain on the very east end, Carver Park. And we were not able to operate that last year. Basically, the basin was not holding water. So we got a contractor lined up to get that relined and get that in operation. So in 2023, as you're strolling through our wonderful downtown, you'll hear the water bubbling there at Carver Park. And then another water main project. So we did West Prospect last year, and there's a section on East Prospect we need to get taken care of. That's between Gordon and East Drive. So if you're in that section of town, know that we're going to be inconvenienced there all summer long. So we'll be tearing up the old water and putting down a new road. And again, appreciate your patience as we do that. And then there's an activation zone, which is another downtown improvement. So we have several parking lots, and what we're trying to do is, number one, resurface that lot, but also incorporate kind of a social pocket park area that will allow us with our social district, as you're again visiting our wonderful downtown, if you want to sit outside, enjoy a beverage or a meal that you've received from one of those downtown businesses, you can enjoy that in our little pocket park in the back. And then talk a little bit about the electric utility. They have set some pretty strong metric goals, and one of those is to replace 70 of our wooden poles. Again, we're trying to go from a reactive to a proactive program. So I like when the departments actually set some specific metrics, so it allows us really to kind of measure some of that in the coming year. And then, one of the other things they want to do is replace 500 electric meters. Again, the meters of our systems, whether it be water or electric, really are our cash registers that allows us to measure what's being used in the system to maintain rates that are equitable for everyone. So it's important that those are measuring correctly. So we need to replace those on a frequent basis. And then again, the electric utility wants to basically compare themselves to some national standards. So they've set, it doesn't mean a lot to most people, but over 1.1 million kilowatt hours of generation from our hydro units. We're pretty proud of our hydroelectric generating facility there on the Kalamazoo River. It's actually one of the oldest in the United States, and we've been fortunate to keep that in operation. And the team that works there do a wonderful job and take a lot of pride in that system. And then another component of that is the Brooks substation. So in our Brooks substation industrial park at south of town, we just are in the middle of constructing a new electrical substation to service that for now into the future. Hope to have that placed into action soon. And then Marshall has a 100-unit senior apartment living complex known as the Marshall House. We're in the process of finding a buyer to take that off our hands. We really don't feel that's really our role as a municipality. So we'd like to put that in the private sector with someone that has that type of expertise. So hoping to complete that yet this year. Our new website and associated branding. Again, our websites, if you've ever gone and utilized that, it's pretty tired and it's time for an upgrade on that. So we're pretty excited to get that up and going, and hopefully we'll have that done by March or April. And then also some of our branding, we needed to freshen that up a little bit. So trying to provide some consistency along the organization and, really instill some organizational pride with some of that. As the group talked about previously, linear trails, Marshall's pretty fortunate to have a wonderful river walk. However, that was built in the late 80s. Fortunately, through some trust fund grants to the state of Michigan. And again, it is in need of some maintenance, especially the original section. So we're working to put together a plan to get that up to date and allow that to be used by everyone and not have any safety issues with that. And then MDOT, there's some areas in town where we want to put together a non-motorized plan so we can go after some grants to really connect some of our downtown areas, parks, and also our commercial districts too. And hopefully some of our new residential areas that are coming on board this year. Eaton Park, talked a little bit about that. That's at the athletic field, kind of in the southeast corner there, which would be right now pickleball court, splash pad, new shade pavilion. And as part of that, we need to update our Parks and Rec 5-year master plan. Not only does that provide a roadmap for what we need to do in our community as far as parks and recreation planning, it also provides opportunities to avail ourselves of some grants at the state and federal level. So we need to have that done. And then we're going to continue our partnership with MEDA and the MEDC to promote and develop the mega site. I'm sure that everyone's aware of what's going on with that. And, we think that's critical for the viability of our community going forward. So we're a strong proponent of that, and we're going to do what we need to do to make sure that that comes to fruition. And then finally, the South NI traffic impact study. What that is if you're familiar with South Kalamazoo and Hughes Street, currently that's an MDOT M route. There's a flashing warning signal, and I think everyone recognizes that if you use that intersection, it really needs to be a full-blown traffic signal. So again, we need a traffic study to impress upon the Michigan Department of Transportation that that's what needs to occur there. So we're going to fund that study and make sure that happens. I think that's it. Again, thank you to everyone and appreciate the opportunity to participate in the forum.
Thank you so much for sharing with us about what's going on in Marshall. Next up, we have the City of Springfield with City Manager Vester Davis. Go ahead and get started, Vester.
Okay, thank you, Lucy. Before I get started, I want to say to my colleagues, you all are creating a long list of things I have to do here in Springfield. So thank you for that. I also want to use a few sports analogies or terms that you may hear throughout my presentation. So it may be some football in the brain for this weekend, and also a little bit of track and field. So as Derek passed the baton to me, I'll try not to drop it before I pass it on to Kelly. So I also want to recognize Jessica and Lucy. Thank you, colleagues on the call, Springfield City Council and our boards and commissions, Springfield staff, everyone who plays a part in our successes as we go forward. And I also want to recognize our past community leaders that are no longer with the city of Springfield, Maxine Morgan, and also Pamela Lasley, who served on our planning commission. So thank you for their services the past year and before. Springfield City Council, we had an election. Want to recognize someone else. So we shown on the screen is our city council. We had one new elected official, Tracy Cummins, who is pictured there on the screen. So I appreciate her stepping up to the plate and looking to serve the citizens of Springfield. Also, our meetings are held on the first and third Mondays at 6:30 p.m. So if you're not entertained by the city of Battle Creek, please come on over and tune in to the city of Springfield. Our location is 601 Avenue A, and we also have live broadcasts as well on Access Vision. Next slide, please. 2022, we had a lot of great successes. Our election success, as I mentioned, someone who stepped up to the plate and said, I want to play a role in the future of Springfield, and that was Tracy Cummins. Also, financial stability. I believe it was Derek mentioned the importance of having good financial staff. So I want to recognize our finance director, Ethan Moody. He ensured that we have no deficit fund balances and also no fund deficiencies. So we are steadily being fiscally responsible with the taxpayers' dollars and having more success with investing those dollars back into the community. So that goes to my next point, which is community investment. We were able to leverage local monies against one-time funding opportunities like the ARPA funds that many of your communities are seeing success with. We did, as in the picture here, we funded one of our nonprofits here at the Burma Center and granted them $25,000 to go towards their capital campaign. That was a really good highlight, really good success here in Springfield. We also eliminated credit and debit card fees for utility bill payments. This is a great investment. We saw the economy shifting to more of credit and debit exchanges. And so we wanted to make it easier for our residents to pay their utility bills by waiving those fees. We all have experienced that 3 to 5% or whatever the case may be. So by eliminating those credit card fees, just made it easier for staff, but also for our residents to be able to pay their utility bills 24/7. And then we also invested in our parks and our housing and nonprofits with the ARPA funds. We had 3 broad categories that we wanted to address using those funds: public utility infrastructure, community development, as well as park improvements. Those were our 3 broad categories. And for our public utility infrastructure, we are roughly 28% complete with that funding allocation. For community development, we are 62% complete. And for our park improvements, we are 98% complete in the use of those funds. And then housing, we touched them. That was part of our community development bucket, if you will, where we funded home rehabilitation projects. So we're up to, I want to say, 6 projects that in total that we were able to afford the rehabilitation of those homes. Next slide. We also have the success in our cultural events, Springfield Car Show. As you know, the 70th anniversary of Springfield occurred this past year. So we had a really huge Springfield Car Show, which featured a movie in the park event. It was the first of our kind to have a movie in the park event because of the nature of our community. But it was really successful. We learned a lot, and I think we're going to be planning future movies in the park for our residents. As pictured here, you'll see Maxine holding the trophy. That was her pride and joy. I hope she continues in the future to come back to Springfield and present our awardees. So she really enjoys that. Our Easter egg hunt is another very important cultural event. We have a huge turnout from the community and kids and families coming out to Begg Park. So look forward to 2023's event. And the Halloween Trunk or Treat is another event that has been spurred by staff here, actually at Springfield, where we have gotten together and wanted to host these community events. Our turnout this past year was pretty fun. We had some coordination with our local schools as well to not only funnel kids from our event to the school's event. And I think in the future, you'll see more collaboration between the two, the city and the local schools, so that we can have some fun with the youth here in Springfield. We also continue investment in our city services and operations, which leads into our 2023, where we celebrated our opening of our public works garage. It was quite an ordeal to get to that point, but it was very much needed to invest in those individuals who run our public works department. Coming in 2023, strategic planning with city leadership. We actually just wrapped up our strategic planning or strategic agenda session 2 nights ago. So we had some really good discussion between staff and our city council. And we feel like having a strategic approach will project us into the future and having more success. Onboarding mental health resource for city staff and their household. I felt like this was a great initiative in 2023. Our staff will now have access to mental health resource through HelpNet, Bronson HelpNet. I think that our staff, they do a phenomenal job with serving the residents. So we need to make sure that we are providing them the resources to kind of decompress from the day's work. So looking forward to that and the usage for all of our city staff. We also wanted to look internally at completing the job description or job classification and compensation study. Our staff are asked to do a lot, wear many hats as a small organization. And so we want to make sure they have proper job descriptions and they're compensated properly as well for the services that they provide. So I appreciate City Council's focus and willingness to undergo this study. Advance our asset management goals by conducting a sidewalk assessment. That's just one of our studies that we mentioned, but we also completed our water and sewer rate study in 2022 and our PACER rating study, which is assessing our roads, local roads. So going back to that strategic focus, strategic planning on how to best leverage our local dollars is what we want to accomplish. And again, also improve our asset management so that when we do a road project, we're not going back and ripping that road up. We're assessing all the needs along that corridor or street or road here in Springfield. The last bullet point here was implement the updated City of Springfield Parks and Recreation Plan. We utilize some of our county park millage dollars to update our plan that expired in 2019. We recently concluded this plan update, and we look forward to operationalizing that plan. So it's not sitting on the shelf, and we're actually pulling projects out of the plan and addressing the needs and the wants of the community. So again, using those small resources, those resources or financial resources, I should say, that are given to us and propelling us into the future. Another slide, Lucy. So that's another photo. I want to highlight that really quick. We years past, we've had 2 garages that our public works department was operating out of. And I literally say garages. We were storing all of our pieces of equipment as much as we could. And to get one truck that you need out there in the back, we had to pull out all of our vehicles. So this was a welcoming project. Our public works guys, they're doing a fantastic job utilizing the space, maintaining the space, and we're able to store all of our equipment and implements in the garage. So it was quite the project because it was a new endeavor for us, but we wrapped it up, and it was fascinating. We had a ribbon cutting ceremony, and they're doing a heck of a job maintaining the city of Springfield. Continuing our participation in countywide transportation planning efforts, we feel like there is value in having transportation here locally, for our residents. But along that, we also wanted to improve our pedestrian transportation as well. So here soon we'll be having a sidewalk assessment as well. Wrapping up our lead service line verification project. As all of you know, that there's a mandate, we have to finalize our inventory of lead service lines here in the city. And we got a good start on it in 2022. We want to wrap it up here in 2023, using some of those ARPA funds again. And that's part of our attack. We also want to attack our underfunded pension and other post-employment benefits. We're keeping that on track in terms of getting towards 100% funded to ensure the benefits of our past employees and present. Evaluate community policing efforts. We rely on the Calhoun County Sheriff's Office to provide policing services. And what we want to do is survey our residents to make sure that we're getting adequate services. We also want to work with the county to see how we can get more into our community and find out what are their needs and wants. So just evaluating, surveying our residents there. And last but not least, this is something that I picked up on. We want to clarify, communicate, collaborate, and celebrate. It's kind of our mind frame. When we talk about going back to being strategic and intentional, we want to clarify our goals. We want to clarify our vision to the community by all those planning efforts. We want to get staff and the city council on the same page with the community. And then we want to communicate, what those reports are saying, what our plans are, and we want to collaborate. We want to see what other opportunities out there. There may be some collaboration, cross collaboration with the city of Battle Creek, who is our neighbor, also with the county, Calhoun County. And then we want to celebrate our successes. So you may see more ribbon cutting ceremonies, more press releases. You may see more highlights of the work that's being done here in the city of Springfield. So in a summary, we're going to clarify, communicate, collaborate, and celebrate.
Awesome. Thank you, Vester, for that. Sorry for my mouse getting a little jumpy, but I appreciate hearing about your what's happening in Springfield. Lots of good stuff.
Thank you, Lucy.
Next, we have Calhoun County, and Kelly Scott, who's the Administrative Controller for Calhoun, will be presenting. Go ahead, Kelly.
Thank you. I want to start with a special thank you to Jessica and Lucy and Eric, our communications team. Calhoun County is among less than 10% of counties in Michigan, at least, that have communications staff. And I hope you have listened to all of the pretty large, significant projects that are underway in all of the cities this coming year. And I am so happy that the county commissioners have supported and understand the importance of, in order to be successful with implementing these projects, we want to do that with the community and not to them or for them. And the only way to do that is to make sure people understand what's going on from start to finish. And so our communications team are really the key to our community being cohesive. I also want to thank Haley, Rebecca, Derek, and Vester for your leadership. And I think they were pretty modest. And I want to point out just a few things. Calhoun County in our cities have some pretty unique and best practice features in place. So, for example, the Marshall Neighborhood Improvement Authority that Derek just touched on a little bit is a pretty unique economic development tool in Michigan that we're all familiar with DDAs, LDFAs, TIFAs. The NIA is the only tool that's available in Michigan to take the tax increment financing concept and use it towards residential development. And you heard each of our city managers talk about the need for housing in Calhoun County. So in Marshall, that is very much a best practice, one of very few across the state. Also, the city of Battle Creek, Rebecca talked so much about the efforts in all different ways to engage community. Their text messaging apps, their community surveys. I have not seen that in many cities across the state. So those efforts to engage the community are really over the top. Also in Albion, they have a tremendous amount of philanthropy, the splash pad that Haley highlighted in all of the efforts in Albion to redevelop downtown would not be possible without the very generous work of all of community members and former community members in Albion to make that happen. In Springfield, they're supportive of the Burmese community and the Burma Center. The Burmese are about 3% of the population in Calhoun County. And so that's just a really nice partnership that we see to support them in Springfield. So thank you all. I do want to mention that, you know, we talked about this last year, the city managers and the county leadership, we had to learn how to work even more tightly, more closely during COVID with our Joint Emergency Operations Center. That was applauded across the state as very unique and very successful with that collaboration. And that continues. The city managers and mayors and the county board chair and I meet quarterly to continue our work in trying to figure out how to not duplicate efforts and how to coordinate efforts in some pretty big initiatives that have already been highlighted. You also heard all of the city managers make sure that they were thanking the leadership of the city councils and of the employees. It is for a reason, and that just shows leadership of these individuals in recognizing that it is a tough time to be a local government employee. And so we are all working on efforts to support our employees so that they can better support the public. So the County Board of Commissioners also welcomed 2 new commissioners this year. Out of our 7, we had 5 returning. The 2 new are Monique French, Pastor French from Washington Heights United Methodist Church in Battle Creek, and Diane Thompson, who is the CEO of Binder Park Zoo in the Marshall District. We elected a new board chair, Kathy Suvetti from the Battle Creek area, and our vice chair for this year is Steve Frisbee, who is a former board chair. Derek King is also a former board chair. So we really have a nice, healthy mix of commissioners who have had several years of history in governing Calhoun County, and then some fresh perspectives on how we implement policy to best serve the community. Next slide. 2022 for Calhoun County government was a year of really determination. We were committed to, even with short staff and even with reduced revenues, trying to make sure that things that were stalled or slowed down or got behind during COVID were restored. As Lucy mentioned, or as Jessica mentioned, there are still some COVID efforts going on in 2022. But we were able to focus on making sure that we emerged to this community and offered financial stability for the county, which is really important to anybody who lives and works and visits and wants to relocate to Calhoun County, to understand that we have strong finances. That was demonstrated by the continued strategic deployment of our American Rescue Plan funds, the unprecedented one-time funding that every city, village, township, and the county across the state, across the nation received starting in 2021. For the county, that was a total allocation of 26 million. We have at this point allocated 23 of that. Half of it approximately was needed to replace lost governmental revenues. So very critical in that contribution to keep our finances stable. And then the remaining half was split approximately evenly to making sure that we responded to public health response and to help the community recover from negative impact of the pandemic, economic impacts, communities that were hit the hardest. And so we continue to deploy those funds, and some of the appropriations that happened in 2022 will be implemented, those projects, within 2023. In conjunction with issuing capital bonds for ongoing keeping up with our finances, we received an affirmed AA credit rating from Standard & Poor's with a stable outlook. So Calhoun County is one of where that's the second highest credit rating you can get. Have to be much larger, like Oakland County, to achieve a AAA credit rating. So that is, again, very important, as financing is a tool that is very critical in local government to making sure that we don't let our facilities and equipment get so far behind that it costs the taxpayers more to replace. We also were able to, through some pension strategies and bonding and working with our unions, increase our pension funding from 76% to 97% last year. Next slide. A lot of community support happened, and I want to just say I continue to be so impressed with our countywide elected officials and our department heads. And they all, I think, just demonstrated that their understanding of changing community needs with some initiatives that happened last year. I won't go through all of these, but just a few examples. Our Economic Development Corporation, our Community Development Office, sponsored a new local government leaders forum, again, along the lines of better communication, but bringing the township officials, city officials together so that we can discuss common issues. Our Senior Services Office, that is supported with a voter approved millage, said, we need to be able to serve more seniors. They do have an accumulated fund balance, so they updated their poverty limits to serve more seniors. Technology improvements included being able to get your vital records online through the clerk's office. The county supports the two tribal related entities, the Firekeepers Local Revenue Sharing Board and the Native American Heritage Fund. We were able to deploy about $6.5 million through those two organizations last year. Firekeepers continues to increase their net win, which in turn 2% of that comes back to the community to support our schools, local governments. And then voters reaffirmed their support for our veteran services and the county medical care facility with renewal of those millages last year. Next slide. The road department, Calhoun County is one of only, I think, 5 in Michigan that has a road department. Most road agencies are separate commissions, separately governed. Because we have a road department, we are able to, we have some capabilities through Michigan law as a county, but we are able to do large projects like resurface all of Emmett Township's roads over the last 3 years with the support of taxpayers and in partnership with Emmett Township. About 75 miles of local roads were all resurfaced over the last year. That is the third of our comprehensive local road improvement programs, starting with Bedford Township and Penfield Township about 5 years ago. With this completion of this project, we will have improved about half of the county's local road system that we are responsible for. We have a long way to go. Realize that there are some of our more rural townships in particular that don't have the tax base to support a comprehensive project. However, we are continuing to do what we can with limited road funding to fix the roads. Parks improvements also happened with Calhoun County, and watch for more of those going forward. And then I'll finish on the piece about valuing employees. Calhoun County, a big focus that we have is understanding how to continue to recruit and retain great employees. We have a great location to live in Calhoun County. We have a great mission. Our wages cannot keep up with the private sector. All of the changes in the values of the workforce, we're very much taking seriously. And to that end, we are adding a deputy HR position this year. And the focus really needs to be on more support for our mental health, just continuing to support remote work policies when possible. We do have a Justice, Equity, Diversity, and Inclusion Committee. It's definitely not as robust as the city of Battle Creek, but we continue to do as much as we can to value our employees. That's really a high priority for the county. Next slide. So coming in 2023, the International City County Management Association has launched a long-term initiative called Local Government Reimagined. So when we think about reimagining Calhoun County government, the goal is to make sure that we're resetting and refreshing our values and adapting to meet the changing challenges of today and into the future. So I always start with leadership matters, and we will be giving an orientation session with our county commission very soon. We have 30 plus committees within the communities. Some of them are managed by the city managers here today, and we appoint county commissioners to those. So that's a very big responsibility they have in addition to just county commission business. So those appointments will happen this month. And then we also recognize there's been a change in the legislature at the state level and at the national level. So we will do our part to make sure that we're advocating for priorities and funding for Calhoun County. Next slide. Technology is an area that you heard, I think, from all of the city managers, similar for the county. We are definitely, one of the big projects we have is just replacing our finance at HR system, which doesn't sound exciting to the public. We also have new security systems through technology to streamline the communications. And then also the road department will be implementing a new application to report potholes and other issues. So a lot of upgrades in the area of technology. Next slide. One of the most exciting projects for the county is the rebranding and renovation of our youth center, formerly the juvenile home in Marshall. The county board approved the new logo that you see here, which is a phoenix symbolizing rebirth and renewal, but the focus is really on the youth. And so we are seen as a national and state model. We house youth from other counties across the state, and there's very much a need for expansion of beds available. So that will all happen throughout this calendar year. We have issued bonds to finance that. There will be energy improvements, but most importantly, it will improve the safety and the successful operation of our youth center, with that completion scheduled for early 2024. Next slide. When we talk about increasing the resilience of our community, the county is helping the dispatch authority, who got a new 911 millage last year, be able to finance the improvements that was one of the main goals of the millage, right? They needed new funding to upgrade towers and radios throughout the county to make sure that emergency communications is the best that it can be. So the county's financing those improvements to make sure things can be implemented as quickly as possible. And then the sheriff received a pretty large grant last year to make sure that cameras are installed in all of our schools and that they're connected to dispatch for the best response we can hope for in the unfortunate event of school shootings or other incidents. Next slide. And maintaining livable communities. You heard a lot from the cities along these lines. The largest projects to look forward to, which require the collaboration of all of us, our cities and counties. The creation of a transportation authority. Public transit is a huge priority that we've been working on. We do expect the actual creation of that authority and some action plans to happen starting this year. The broadband task force that was created a couple of years ago is now at the point where we do have a recommendation from our engineering consultants. We have just put out a request for proposals to select internet providers, and we did get some pretty good response for local providers who are willing to partner with the county and expand internet for our residents. That will be a multi-year project. But again, this year will mark some pretty significant milestones there. There is a big focus on mental health, increasing mental health resources and addressing the opioid issues that we have in Calhoun County. Fortunately, there's some settlement funding from the distributors and providers of opioids coming to the county and a couple of our cities and townships. And then security improvements. We have a big focus this next year on the Toller building in downtown Battle Creek. To deploy what is called crime prevention through environmental design. So that includes everything from better lighting to landscaping to improving the hallways and corridors. So a lot needed for that older building in downtown Battle Creek. Next slide. And then I think lastly, supporting a thriving economy. And I mentioned earlier, some of the projects awarded by the county through our ARPA funds will happen throughout this year. The largest one and the most expensive one is the renovation of the former McCamley Hotel. So very excited to listen to Battle Creek Unlimited through their leadership, make that happen and get the new hotel open for our community. And then I'll just end on a note that Derek mentioned, actually Rebecca and Derek mentioned, and that is the Marshall mega site. And the county's role has been mainly limited to managing the contractors through the site readiness program, which is just making sure that we all have a master plan for that site. But this project is moving very quickly, and it has been the #1 site promoted by MEDC that our community has this very unique site of close to 2,000 acres, unlike anywhere else in the state, suited for the development. And this project will bring 2,000 to 3,000 high-paying jobs. It will spark investment in our infrastructure. It will help small businesses by their being the recipient of people that come here to work at this company. There will be higher property values, and really the bottom line is this project will create opportunities for our young people so that they don't grow up and move away to find jobs elsewhere. So very happy to support the efforts in developing the mega site. And just in closing, as we reimagine Calhoun County local government, I just want to reemphasize our commitment to our mission, which is building a better community through responsive leadership.
Thank you so much, Kelly, and thank you to everyone. We've got about 9 minutes left in our time, so we've got a little bit of time for questions. Real quick housekeeping. I appreciate everyone who submitted questions to the form that we published out there. There are more than we have time for, so know that, as we've done in the past, we will send those out to our leaders after this presentation and get some thoughts back on those so we can share those with you. This is going to exist in replay on the City of Battle Creek's YouTube channel. This will also appear on Access Vision cable broadcast several times in February, and we will also share that out. Wanted to make sure everybody knows that. We appreciate everybody. So let me dive into some questions, and I will just ask leaders to jump in as you have something to say about it. This one I think has been discussed a lot in our communities. The costs and availability of childcare might be the biggest stressor I hear about over and over. Many people can't afford it, but everybody needs it. And those working within the industry seem burnt out and underpaid. It seems like no one is happy with the status quo that we're looking at there. As leaders, is there a particular childcare model you would like to see in your communities moving forward? And what are the barriers to success with that? Is it budgetary, political, culture, or something else?
I'll jump in. I'll start this one. So I had an opportunity to think about this a little bit, and I appreciate the question. For Springfield, part of our 2023, what to look for is an analysis of our compensation to our employees to help offset or some of those rising child care costs. Along with that, we know that we're not in the private sector, but we do feel like we can at least analyze the market and try to get close to market, or if not exceed market rate for positions here in Springfield. In addition to that, I think we offer a flexible schedule to our employees. I've seen that being a model of how you can help your staff, your employees deal with with childcare. So offering a flexible schedule, analyzing the work from home model as well are some of the ones I think that are most advantageous for the city of Springfield and our organization of this size.
just if I could add a little bit to this. So in the city of Albion, this is a challenge or priority for us as well. We have unfortunately just one childcare facility in our community. And obviously that's not meeting the needs of all of our residents. So just at the city level, as similar to what Vester said, just looking at providing opportunities for remote work for employees who do have children to be able to take advantage of that, to maybe stay homes a few days out of the week to be able to care for their children, as well as working with the Albion Economic Development Corporation. They have a workforce task force who we know that for our residents to be able to access jobs and employment, that childcare is a need. And with only one childcare center here in town, working with that task force to identify different opportunities or grant funding, or to be able to hopefully bring a new center to the city of Albion. So it is a priority for us. And hopefully we will be able to bring new childcare here to the city of Albion.
Want to touch on that one before we
Jessica,
go ahead.
Thanks. If I could also add, and Haley made a good point, is that, the recognition that childcare is a component of economic development. And I think all of us are trying to also link our employers with the needs that they're seeing within their employee base. We periodically at the city of Battle Creek were asked if we would be willing to provide a childcare service or a drop-in emergency type child care, because if you need to get to work and you just get a call that your child care facility is closed or your babysitter is not well, what do you do then? And so, yes, I think as employers in the county, we can offer as many tools as we can to our employees, like the flex schedules, the hybrid work schedules, et cetera. But then also listening to our employers as to what are they doing? Is there any collaboratory relationships that we could piggyback on? And we are seeing from the affordable housing development, they're tying it to childcare facilities on site of those housing developments. So I think we are seeing some recognition in this area. And for those of you who listen to the governor's state of the state, she certainly did mention some tools from the state level that hopefully many of us local governments can tap into to expand the availability of childcare in our community. So we rely on our partners like Battle Creek Unlimited and Pulse and others to understand the need, but then also do our best to connect or be the liaison for those resources.
Thank you all for that. And I think this will be our final question. This was asked specifically about Battle Creek. So Rebecca, if you have anything to start with, but this is a question that we can ask of all of our communities. The question is about downtown revitalization and what plans you have for that upcoming, things that you're seeing, things you're looking forward to that maybe you were not able to mention in the presentation today.
Sure, I can start, but I know my colleagues are doing some exciting things in their downtowns as well. I think we've learned the importance and vibrancy of that center core of our communities. And certainly COVID kind of stopped some of the progress that we had seen prior to that. But from the city of Battle Creek's perspective, we're focusing it on the small business lens as well as the residential housing lens. But I think I also mentioned it in my slides, is that we're doubling down on the culture of vitality piece. That live, work, play, that play part is incredibly important from a placemaking perspective and a vibrancy protective to lift up, the cultures and the experiences and the gathering components that we would like to see in our core downtown. The finishing of the Milton, the opening of New Holland in 2023, and several new venues downtown, Cafe Rica, Hand Mat Brewing, and revitalization for places like Clara's and the Cricket Club, and others. I think the Griffin Pub and others are a way to try to bring that vibrancy, or I guess expand upon the vibrancy we have in our urban cores. But also that, from the city of Battle Creek's perspective, we are developing district mapping throughout the city. We know the core downtown is important, but we also know Old Lakeview and Urbandale and the Beckley corridor are also important ways to connect our neighbors with not only vital services that they need, but also that those fun vibrancy events and places to visit as well.
I'll chime in. Well, as I mentioned in the previous talk there, we're really trying to, I guess some of the best economic development I'm a believer that local units can do is really creating places people want to be, creating those redevelopment spaces. So that's why we're doing that activation zone to create those elements where, again, people just want to get in your downtown and be there. But beyond that, we're leveraging as many dollars as we can from the state of Michigan to help with reuse of our downtown buildings, like perhaps the second and third floor could be renovated into a residential living versus just being used for storage. And that does a couple of things. One, it creates viability for that storefront owner who maybe then recognizes that it's not just that first floor that's going to generate revenue for me. We can generate some revenue on that second and third floor. And that makes me feel good because then I don't have to worry about a roof potentially, decaying over time and local government have to step in to, try to keep those buildings that share common walls in good repair. So really focusing heavy on trying to help building owners reuse the floors of their buildings. And again, creating those spaces that people want to be in. We're fortunate to have Dark Horse Brewery kind of south of the main business district. So one of the things we're working on is creating a new overlay area, kind of a zoning district called the River District, to kind of encourage that eclectic type of development. Again, where do people want to go and hang out and just have a good time, those community spaces? And then how do we create a connection between, again, our downtown and that River District? So those are a few of the initiatives that we're pushing hard on here in the city of Marshall. Thank you for the question.
Thanks, Derek. Anyone else want to speak to that one?
Yes, if I can add briefly. So a lot of investment has been put into Albion's downtown district over the past 10 years. And I think we will still continue to see investment continue to happen in the downtown. Most importantly, just taking advantage of that mixed use zoning opportunity to really get the most out of the buildings in our downtown area. The city, we continue to work with Albion Reinvestment Corporation and the MEDC. I don't know if some of you have heard of the big Albion plan, but which will result in over 50 residential apartments in the upper levels of the buildings and over 20 different commercial spaces on the lower level. So we are continuing to work with ARC as well as MEDC to make sure that plan comes to life and continue to invest in our downtown area, as well as support a lot of our local small businesses with the Albion Malibu Brewing Company, the Historic Bone Theater, the Marriott Hotel, and we've had quite a few other new small businesses pop up in the downtown district. So just continuing to support them, but then also working with developers to continue to bring new investment is what we're focused on.
Thank you so much. So I am going to thank our leaders today, Haley, Rebecca, Derek, Fester, and Kelly, for sharing all of this information with us. I hope everybody found it really informative. And again, there were other important and big questions asked in the form submission. So we'll share those out with the leaders afterward and try to get some more information out to all of our neighbors countywide here. Thank you for everyone who has been watching on the YouTube stream. It's wonderful to have you with us. And thank you to everyone. Thank you to Lucy and to Eric on my back end here, helping me out. And hope everyone has a great weekend.
Yes. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.